The last time my brother looked at me with love in his eyes was on a Tuesday afternoon in September 6 years ago. We were standing in the parking lot of our father's house after a Sunday barbecue that had stretched into the evening, and he was telling me about his new app idea. His voice bright with excitement, his hands moving the way they always did when he was passionate about something. He trusted me completely in that moment. He trusted me with his dream, with his vision, with the thing that mattered most to him in the world. And I took that trust, and I shattered it into a million pieces. My name is James Crawford, though most people call me Jamie. I am 36 years old, and this is the story of how I cheated my own brother and watched our bond break in ways that I never thought possible. To understand what I did, you need to understand who my brother was to me. Tommy was not just my sibling. He was my best friend, my confidant, the person I had shared every important moment of my life with since the day he was born. I was 4 years old when my parents brought him home from the hospital, this tiny, wrinkled creature wrapped in a blue blanket, and I remember thinking that he was the most amazing thing I had ever seen. From that moment on, we were inseparable. Growing up, we did everything together. We shared a room until I was 12, our beds pushed against opposite walls, and we would stay up late talking about everything and nothing, our whispered conversations floating through the darkness like secrets only we could understand. We built forts in the backyard that we defended against imaginary invaders. We rode our bikes to the creek behind our neighborhood and spent summer afternoons catching frogs and skipping stones. We had our own language, our own jokes, our own world that existed separate from everyone else. Our mother used to say that God had given her 2 sons but only 1 heart between them. She meant it as a compliment, a testament to how close we were, how connected. But looking back now, I wonder if she saw something else too. I wonder if she saw the competition that simmered beneath the surface, the jealousy that I tried so hard to hide, the part of me that could never quite accept that my little brother might be better than me at some things, because Tommy was better than me. Not at everything, but at the things that mattered most. He was smarter, more creative, more naturally gifted in ways that seemed effortless and unfair. School came easy to him in a way it never did for me. I had to study for hours to get B's while he barely cracked a book and pulled straight A's. I practiced basketball every day after school and barely made the junior varsity team while he picked up a guitar at 14 and was playing in a band within 6 months. Everything I struggled for, he seemed to achieve without trying. I loved him despite this. Or maybe I loved him because of it. He never made me feel inferior, never rubbed his talents in my face or acted like he was better than me. He looked up to me, actually, saw me as his big brother, his protector, his role model. He would come to me for advice about girls and school and life, and I would dispense wisdom like I knew what I was talking about, basking in his admiration even as I secretly envied his gifts. Our father was a practical man, an engineer who believed in hard work and discipline and earning your place in the world. He loved us both, but I always sensed that he understood me better, that he saw himself in my struggle and my determination. Our mother was the dreamer, the one who encouraged Tommy's creativity, who bought him his first computer when he was 10 and marveled at the things he could create with it. She saw his potential in a way that sometimes made me feel invisible. When our mother got sick, everything changed. I was 24, already working at a marketing firm in the city, trying to climb the corporate ladder and prove myself. Tommy was 20, still in college, still figuring out who he was and what he wanted to be. Cancer came for her the way it comes for everyone, sudden and brutal and utterly indifferent to how much we loved her. She fought for 2 years. 2 years of chemotherapy and radiation, of hospital visits and false hopes, of watching her waste away while we pretended to believe she was going to get better. I visited when I could, but work kept me busy, kept me away more than I should have been. Tommy dropped out of college to take care of her. He moved back home and became her primary caregiver, holding her hand through the worst of it, being there in ways that I was not. I told myself I was providing for the family, that my salary was paying for the treatments insurance did not cover. But the truth was that I was running away. I could not handle watching her die. I could not handle the helplessness of it, the knowledge that no amount of hard work or determination could save her. So I buried myself in my job and let my little brother carry a burden that should have been shared. She died on a rainy morning in March. I was in a meeting when my father called, presenting a quarterly report to executives who did not care about my dying mother. By the time I got to the hospital, she was already gone. Tommy was sitting beside her bed, holding her hand, his face streaked with tears. He looked up at me when I walked in, and I saw something in his eyes that I had never seen before. Not anger, not accusation, just exhaustion. Just the weight of having been there alone when it mattered most. We never talked about it. We never had the conversation where I apologized for not being there, where he told me how much it had cost him to carry that weight alone. We just pushed forward, the way men in our family were taught to do, burying our feelings beneath work and routine and the business of living. But something had shifted between us. A distance had opened up that had not been there before, a crack in the foundation of our relationship that would only grow wider in the years to come. After our mother's death, Tommy went back to college and finished his degree in computer science. He had always been good with technology, but now he threw himself into it with a passion that bordered on obsession. He told me once that coding was like therapy for him, that losing himself in the logic and structure of programming helped quiet the grief that still echoed in his mind. I climbed the corporate ladder. I got promoted, got married to Melissa, bought a house in the suburbs, did all the things I was supposed to do to prove that I was successful. But no matter how high I climbed, I never felt like I'd arrived. There was always someone above me, someone with more money, more power, more success. And there was always Tommy, seemingly content with his simple life, his small apartment, his passion projects that he worked on in his spare time. It was during one of those passion projects that he came up with the idea that would change everything. He called it Connect Local. It was an app designed to help small businesses in rural and underserved communities connect with customers and resources they would not otherwise have access to. It was brilliant in its simplicity, a platform that combined social networking, e-commerce, and community building in a way that no one else was doing. He had been working on it for over a year, coding in the evenings after his day job, pouring his heart and soul into something he believed could actually make a difference in the world. That Sunday at our father's house, he pulled me aside and told me everything. He showed me the prototype on his phone, walked me through the features and the user interface, explained his vision for how it could grow and scale. His eyes were shining with that same excitement I remembered from our childhood, that pure joy of creation that I had always envied and never quite understood. I asked him why he was telling me. He said he needed help. He had the technical skills to build the app, but he did not know anything about marketing or business development or raising capital. He wanted me to be his partner. He wanted us to do this together, two brothers building something that mattered. I should have said yes. I should have embraced the opportunity to work alongside my brother, to combine his creativity with my business sense, to finally be on the same team instead of silently competing from opposite corners. But something stopped me. Something dark and ugly that had been growing inside me for years. I looked at his prototype and I saw my own failures reflected back at me. I saw all the promotions I had chased and not gotten, all the recognition I had craved and never received. I saw my marriage, which was already showing cracks that I refused to acknowledge. I saw my life, comfortable but hollow, successful on paper but empty at its core. And I saw Tommy, with his brilliant idea and his genuine passion and his unwavering belief that he could make the world a little bit better. I was jealous. I was so jealous that it made me sick. And in that moment, standing in the parking lot of our father's house with the sunset painting the sky orange and pink, something inside me broke. I told Tommy I needed to think about it. I told him the idea was interesting, but I was not sure I had time to commit to a side project. I told him we would talk more later, that I would look at his business plan and give him my thoughts. He hugged me before we left, told me he loved me, told me he was glad we were going to do this together. He never doubted for a second that I would help him. But I had already decided to betray him. The plan came to me slowly, in pieces, over the weeks that followed. I could not stop thinking about Connect Local, about its potential, about what it could become in the right hands. And I kept coming back to the same thought. Why should Tommy get all the credit? Why should he be the one to succeed while I was stuck in my dead-end corporate job, chasing someone else's dream? I knew people in the tech investment world. My job in marketing had brought me into contact with venture capitalists and startup founders, people who were always looking for the next big thing. One of them was Stephen Hartley, a smooth-talking investor who had made millions betting on apps and platforms that changed the way people lived. He had approached me once about leaving my job to work with him, and I had turned him down because I was too scared to take the risk. Now I saw an opportunity that did not require any risk, at least not for me. I invited Stephen to lunch and told him about Connect Local, but I did not tell him it was Tommy's idea. I told him it was mine. I had been working on it for months, I said. I had the prototype, the business plan, the vision. All I needed was capital and connections to make it a reality. Stephen was interested. More than interested, he was excited. He said Connect Local was exactly the kind of socially conscious, community-focused platform that investors were looking for. He said he could raise millions in seed funding, could assemble a team of developers and marketers to bring it to life. He said we could be partners, 50-50, and that I would never have to work for anyone else again. All I had to do was bring him the prototype and the code. I told myself it was not really stealing. Tommy had shown me the idea freely, had practically given it to me when he asked for my help, and he would never be able to do anything with it on his own anyway. He did not have the connections, the business sense, the killer instinct needed to turn a good idea into a successful company. I was doing him a favor, really. I was taking his dream and making it into something real, something that could actually succeed. These were the lies I told myself as I copied the files from Tommy's laptop during my next visit to his apartment. He was in the shower, and his computer was open on the kitchen table, and it was so easy. Just a few clicks, a flash drive, and I had everything I needed. The prototype, the source code, the business plan he had spent months perfecting. All of it transferred to my possession in less than 2 minutes. I left before he got out of the shower. I texted him that something had come up at work and I had to run. He said no problem, that we would catch up later. He had no idea that I had just stolen his future. The next few months were a whirlwind. Stephen moved fast, raising $2 million in seed funding from a group of angel investors who loved the Connect Local concept. We incorporated as a company, with Stephen and me as equal partners. We hired developers to rebuild the app from Tommy's prototype, designers to create a polished interface, marketers to generate buzz. We were going to launch in 6 months, targeting small towns in the Midwest as our initial market. I quit my corporate job. Melissa was thrilled at first, excited that I was finally taking a risk, finally pursuing something I was passionate about. She did not know where the idea had come from, and I never told her. I let her believe that I had been secretly working on it for months, that I was finally revealing the creative, entrepreneurial side of myself that she had always wanted to see. The guilt was there, of course. It lived in my chest like a small cold stone, growing heavier with each passing day. I avoided Tommy's calls, made excuses about being too busy to visit, created distance that I told myself was necessary. I could not face him, could not look into his eyes and pretend that everything was normal while I was building an empire on his stolen dream. But I was also exhilarated. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was somebody. Investors listened when I spoke. Employees called me boss. Articles in tech publications mentioned my name. I was James Crawford, co-founder of Connect Local, the app that was going to revolutionize how small communities connected and thrived. Nobody knew that it was all built on a lie. Tommy found out 5 months after I had stolen his work. He called me on a Thursday afternoon, his voice strange and tight, asking if we could meet for coffee. I almost said no, almost made another excuse, but something in his tone told me that the reckoning had finally come. We met at a Starbucks near his apartment. He was sitting at a corner table when I arrived, staring at his phone with an expression I could not read. When he looked up and saw me, I felt the blood drain from my face. There was no warmth in his eyes. No love. Just a cold, devastated fury that I had never seen before. He did not bother with small talk. He just turned his phone toward me and showed me the article on his screen. It was from a tech blog, a profile piece about Connect Local and its innovative co-founders. There was a photo of me and Stephen, smiling like we had just conquered the world. And there, in black and white, was the description of our app, the features, the mission, the vision. Everything that Tommy had created. Everything that I had stolen. "How long?" he asked. His voice was barely above a whisper. I could not speak. I could not move. I just sat there, frozen, watching my brother's face as the full weight of my betrayal crashed down on both of us. How long have you been planning this, Jamie? Since Mum's funeral, since before that. When exactly did you decide to steal my work and pretend it was yours? I tried to explain. I tried to say that it was more complicated than he thought, that I had been planning to tell him, that I had meant to bring him in as a partner once things got off the ground. But the words sounded hollow even as I spoke them. Because we both knew the truth. I had stolen from my own brother. I had taken the thing he loved most and claimed it as my own. And there was no excuse, no explanation, no justification that could make that okay. Tommy listened to my fumbling explanations with an expression that shifted from anger to disbelief to something that looked almost like grief. When I finally ran out of words, he sat in silence for a long moment, his jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscles working beneath his skin. You know what the worst part is? He said finally. I would have given it to you. If you had come to me and said you wanted to lead the project, that you had connections and resources I did not have, I would have stepped aside. I would have let you have it, Jamie. Because you are my brother. Because I trusted you more than anyone in the world. He stood up from the table, looking down at me with eyes that were bright with tears he refused to let fall. But you did not ask. You did not trust me enough to ask. You just took it. Like I was nothing. Like all those years of being brothers meant nothing. Tommy, please. I reached for his arm, but he pulled away like my touch burned him. Do not call me. Do not come to my apartment. Do not try to make this right because you cannot. Some things cannot be fixed, Jamie. Some things, once broken, stay broken forever. He walked out of that coffee shop and out of my life. And I sat there alone, surrounded by the noise and bustle of strangers, feeling like the floor had opened up and swallowed me whole. The aftermath of that confrontation was devastating. Tommy told our father what I had done, and I had to face the disappointment in his eyes, the quiet devastation of a man who had raised two sons to be honest and loyal and good, only to watch one of them betray the other in the worst possible way. Dad did not yell at me. That was almost worse. He just sat in his living room, looking older than I had ever seen him, and asked me why. Why had I done it? What had Tommy ever done to deserve this kind of betrayal? I did not have an answer. Not one that made sense, not one that could possibly justify what I had done. I mumbled something about opportunity and fear, and not thinking clearly, but we both knew those were excuses, not explanations. The truth was simpler and uglier. I had been jealous of my brother my entire life, and when I finally had the chance to beat him at something, to be the successful one for once, I had taken it without caring who I hurt. My father told me to leave. He said he needed time to process what I had done, time to figure out how to be my father when he was so ashamed of the man I had become. He said he loved me, but that right now, love was not enough. So I left. I went back to my beautiful house and my increasingly distant wife and my stolen company, and I tried to pretend that everything was fine, but nothing was fine. The guilt that had been a small stone in my chest had grown into a boulder, crushing me from the inside. I could not sleep. I could not eat. I would wake up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, my brother's face haunting my dreams. The success I had wanted so badly felt hollow and worthless, a trophy I had stolen from someone who would have shared it freely if I had only asked. Melissa noticed the change in me. She asked what was wrong, why I had become so withdrawn and anxious, why I flinched every time my phone rang. Eventually I told her the truth. I had to tell someone, and she was my wife, and I thought maybe she would understand. She did not understand. She was horrified. She looked at me like I was a stranger, like she was seeing me clearly for the first time and could not believe what she was seeing. You stole from your own brother? The brother you are always talking about? The one you say you are so close to? That is who you really are? I tried to defend myself, to explain the complicated history of jealousy and competition that had led me to this moment. But she was not interested in explanations. She was interested in who I was as a person, and she had finally gotten an answer she did not like. She moved out 2 weeks later. She said she needed space to think, to figure out if she wanted to stay married to someone capable of what I had done. I begged her to stay, promised I would change, swore that I would make things right. But she just shook her head sadly. I do not know who you are anymore, Jamie. Maybe I never did. The divorce papers came 3 months later. She did not want the house or the money or anything else from me. She just wanted out. And I could not blame her. Who would want to be married to someone like me? Connect Local launched to modest success. The app worked, the marketing was solid, and we gained users in our target markets. But I could not enjoy any of it. Every positive review, every new download, every investor call felt like a fresh reminder of what I had done to achieve it. Stephen noticed my lack of enthusiasm and started questioning my commitment. Tensions grew between us as I became increasingly withdrawn and difficult to work with. Meanwhile, Tommy was rebuilding. Kevin, his best friend from college, reached out to him after the betrayal became known in their circle. Kevin was a talented software engineer, and he convinced Tommy to start over, to take what he had learned and create something new. Together, they began developing a different app, one that built on the concepts behind Connect Local, but took them in new directions. I heard about this through mutual acquaintances, through the whispers that circulated in our overlapping social networks. I heard that Tommy was doing well, that he had found investors who believed in him, that he was building a team and a company that was entirely his own. I was proud of him, in a distant, painful way. And I was terrified of him too. Terrified of what it meant that he could succeed without me, that he had never needed me at all. 2 years passed. I saw Tommy exactly once during that time at our father's 70th birthday party. It was a small gathering at Dad's house, just family and a few close friends, and Tommy came with Rachel, his new girlfriend. He did not acknowledge my presence. He looked through me like I was a ghost, like I had ceased to exist the day I stole from him. I tried to approach him once, during a quiet moment when Rachel was talking to our aunt in the kitchen. I walked up to him on the back porch, my heart pounding, a rehearsed apology ready on my lips. But before I could say a word, he turned to me with those cold, empty eyes and said one sentence. "Do not." Then he walked away, and I was left standing alone on the porch where we had played as children, surrounded by memories of a bond that I had shattered beyond repair. The turning point came 3 years after the betrayal. I had sold my stake in Connect Local to Stephen for a fraction of what it was worth, unable to bear the weight of building something on my brother's stolen dreams. I was living in a small apartment, working freelance marketing jobs that paid the bills but gave me no satisfaction. I was alone, divorced, estranged from my brother, and partially estranged from my father, a shell of the person I had once been. I started seeing a therapist. Dr. Patricia Simmons was a patient, insightful woman who specialized in family trauma and relationship repair. I told her everything, the whole ugly story, expecting her to judge me the way everyone else had. But she did not judge. She just listened, asked questions, helped me understand the patterns of jealousy and insecurity that had led me to this moment. She helped me see that my betrayal of Tommy was not a single moment of weakness, but the culmination of a lifetime of unexamined emotions. I had spent my entire life comparing myself to my brother, measuring my worth against his accomplishments, feeling like I was never quite good enough. Instead of confronting those feelings, I had buried them, let them fester, let them grow into something toxic and destructive. And she helped me understand that healing was possible, but only if I was willing to do the hard work of changing who I was. Not for Tommy, not to earn his forgiveness, but for myself. Because I could not continue living as the person who had done what I did. That person was destroying me from the inside out. I threw myself into therapy with a dedication I had never applied to anything in my life. I read books about emotional intelligence and family dynamics. I joined a support group for people struggling with jealousy and resentment. I started keeping a journal, writing down my feelings instead of burying them, confronting the ugly parts of myself that I had spent so long trying to hide. Slowly, painfully, I began to change. I stopped comparing myself to others, stopped measuring my worth by external achievements. I learned to sit with uncomfortable emotions instead of running from them. I learned to be honest with myself about who I was and what I wanted, even when the answers were not flattering. But the one thing I could not do was make things right with Tommy. I had written him letters that I never sent, composed emails that I deleted before pressing send, rehearsed conversations that I never had the courage to initiate. The chasm between us seemed too wide to cross, the damage too great to repair. And then our father got sick. It started with headaches that would not go away, then dizziness, then a seizure that sent him to the emergency room. The doctors found a tumor, small but aggressive, pressing against the part of his brain that controlled motor function. They said surgery was possible but risky. They said we should prepare for the worst, while hoping for the best. Tommy and I were both there when they gave us the news. It was the first time we had been in the same room in almost 2 years, standing on opposite sides of our father's hospital bed, united by fear, even as we remained divided by history. Dad looked at us both, his face pale and tired, and said something I will never forget. "I am not afraid of dying. I have lived a good life, and your mother is waiting for me on the other side. But I am afraid of leaving you two like this. Broken. Enemies. It would break your mother's heart to see what has become of her boys." He reached out and took both our hands, pulling us closer together despite our resistance. "I do not have time for this grudge. Neither do you. Life is too short to waste on anger and resentment. Whatever happened between you, find a way to fix it. Do it for me. Do it for your mother. Do it for yourselves." He closed his eyes then, exhausted from the effort of speaking. Tommy and I stood there in silence, our father's hands bridging the gap between us, forcing us to confront the reality that we might not have much time left. Tommy left the hospital without speaking to me. But the next day, I received a text message. Just 2 words. "Coffee tomorrow? B." I stared at that message for a long time before responding. It was not forgiveness, not reconciliation, not even an acknowledgement that I deserved a second chance. It was just an opening, a crack in the wall that Tommy had built between us. But it was enough. We met at the same Starbucks where everything had fallen apart 3 years earlier. Tommy was already there when I arrived, sitting at a different table this time, his hands wrapped around a cup of coffee that he was not drinking. He looked different than I remembered. Older, more settled, with a quiet confidence that he had not possessed before. I sat down across from him and waited for him to speak. I had rehearsed 100 different apologies, 1,000 different explanations. But none of them seemed adequate. None of them could capture the full weight of what I had done and how sorry I was for doing it. "Dad asked me to come," Tommy said finally. "He said if I did not at least try to work things out with you, he would haunt me for the rest of my life." I attempted a small smile. "Sounds like Dad." Tommy did not smile back. "Look, Jamie, I am not going to pretend that everything is okay. What you did, it destroyed something in me. I trusted you more than anyone in the world, and you used that trust to steal my work and build a career on my ideas. I am not sure I can ever fully forgive you for that. I know. And I am not asking for forgiveness. I am just asking for a chance to show you that I have changed, that I am not the same person who did that to you." Tommy was silent for a long moment, studying my face with eyes that had learned to be suspicious where I was concerned. "Why did you do it?" he asked finally. "That is the thing I have never understood. We were brothers. We were best friends. What was so important that you were willing to throw all of that away?" I took a deep breath and told him the truth. All of it. The jealousy I had felt since childhood. The insecurity that drove me to measure myself against him constantly. The sense of failure that had been growing inside me for years. The feeling that no matter how hard I worked, I would never be as talented or as successful as my little brother. I told him about the darkness that had taken root in my heart, the ugliness that I had hidden from everyone, including myself. I told him that stealing from him had been the worst moment of my life, and that I had been paying for it every day since. He listened without interrupting, his expression shifting from skepticism to surprise, to something that might have been understanding. When I finished, he sat in silence for a long time, processing what I had said. "I never knew you felt that way," he said finally. "You were always so confident, so sure of yourself. I looked up to you, Jamie. I wanted to be like you." I laughed bitterly. "I spent my whole life wanting to be like you. We were both so busy envying each other that we never realized how stupid we were being." For the first time in years, I saw a flicker of warmth in Tommy's eyes. Not forgiveness, not yet. but maybe the beginning of understanding. "I am not ready to be your brother again," he said. "Too much has happened, and I need more time to process all of this. But I am willing to try. For Dad's sake, if nothing else. That is all I am asking. Just a chance to try." We finished our coffee in relative silence, an awkward truce settling over us like a blanket that did not quite fit. When we stood up to leave, Tommy extended his hand for a handshake. It was not a hug, not an embrace, not even close to the easy affection we had once shared. But it was contact. It was a beginning. "I will text you about visiting Dad," he said. "We should coordinate so he does not have to deal with us separately. I would like that." He nodded once and walked away. I watched him go, feeling something shift inside me for the first time in years. It was not hope exactly. It was too fragile for that. But it was something. A spark in the darkness. A reason to keep trying. The months that followed were difficult in ways I had not anticipated. Our father's surgery was successful, but the recovery was long and painful. Tommy and I took turns caring for him, coordinating our schedules through awkward text messages and stilted phone calls. We were civil but distant, two strangers bound by blood and circumstance, slowly relearning how to exist in the same space. I watched Tommy with our father, saw the gentle way he adjusted Dad's pillows and the patience with which he listened to the same stories over and over again. I saw the man my brother had become, the husband and soon-to-be father he was growing into, and I felt a fierce pride mixed with lingering shame. I had tried to steal his future, and he had built one anyway, better and stronger than anything I could have imagined. One evening, about 4 months into our father's recovery, Tommy and I found ourselves alone together in Dad's living room. Our father was asleep upstairs, and we were waiting for Rachel to arrive with dinner. The silence between us was heavy, filled with all the things we had not yet said. "I want to show you something," Tommy said suddenly. He pulled out his phone and opened an app I did not recognize. "This is what Kevin and I have been building. We are launching next month." He handed me the phone, and I scrolled through the interface. It was beautiful, intuitive, everything that Connect Local had tried to be and more. He had taken his original vision and elevated it, refined it, turned it into something that was unmistakably his own. "It is amazing," I said, and I meant it. "Tommy, this is incredible." He took the phone back, his expression unreadable. "I wanted you to see it. I wanted you to know that what you stole from me, it did not break me. It hurt like hell, and I will carry that scar for the rest of my life. But I am still here. I am still creating. You did not take that from me." I felt tears pricking at my eyes, but I blinked them back. "I am so proud of you. And I am so sorry. I know I have said it before, but I need you to understand how sorry I am." Tommy was quiet for a moment, and then he did something that shocked me. He sat down next to me on the couch, closer than he had been in years, and he looked me in the eyes. "I have been thinking a lot about what you said at that coffee shop, about the jealousy and the insecurity and all of that. And I realized that I never told you something important." "What?" "I was jealous of you too. You were the older brother, the confident one, the one who always seemed to know what he was doing. I spent my whole childhood trying to impress you, trying to make you proud of me. And when you stole my work, it felt like you were saying that I was not good enough, that my ideas only had value if they came from you. I never thought of it that way. I thought you were perfect. I thought everything came easy to you. Nothing comes easy, Jamie. We all struggle. We all have doubts. The difference is that some of us hide it better than others." We sat in silence for a long moment, two brothers confronting the misunderstandings that had poisoned our relationship for years. And then Tommy said something that broke me open in the best possible way. "I am not ready to forgive you completely. I do not know if I ever will be. But I am ready to start trying. Not because you deserve it, but because I am tired of carrying this anger around. It is too heavy. And Dad is right. Life is too short." I did not know what to say, so I just nodded, tears streaming down my face, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. Tommy reached out and put his hand on my shoulder. It was not a hug. It was not an embrace. But it was touch. It was connection. It was more than I had dared to hope for. "Let us start over," he said. "Not from the beginning, because we cannot erase what happened. But from here. From now. Two brothers who made a lot of mistakes but are willing to try to do better." "I would like that," I managed to say. "I would like that more than anything." The years since that conversation have been a slow, steady process of rebuilding. Tommy and I talk regularly now, not with the easy intimacy of our childhood, but with a new kind of honesty that we never had before. We acknowledge the pain between us, the scars that will never fully heal, and we work around them with patience and grace. I went to his app launch and cheered louder than anyone when he took the stage to present his creation to the world. I was there when his daughter was born, pacing the hospital waiting room with Rachel's mother while Tommy held his wife's hand through 20 hours of labor. I am Uncle Jamie now, a title I never thought I would earn, and I treasure every moment I get to spend with my niece. Our father made a full recovery. He is 74 now, slowing down but still sharp, still the moral compass of our family. He cried when Tommy and I told him that we were working on our relationship, that we were trying to find our way back to each other. He said our mother would be proud. I like to believe he is right. I never did go back to the tech industry. I work in non-profit marketing now, helping organizations that serve underserved communities tell their stories and raise the funds they need to make a difference. It does not pay as well as my corporate job did, and it will never make me famous or wealthy. But it feels honest. It feels like something I can be proud of. Tommy's app became a massive success. He was featured in magazines and on podcasts, hailed as an innovator and a visionary. He never mentioned me in any of his interviews, never told the story of how his own brother had tried to steal his work. I asked him once why he protected me like that, and he just shrugged. What would be the point? It would not change anything, and it would just hurt Dad. Besides, that is not who you are anymore. Why should I define you by the worst thing you ever did? That question has stayed with me, a gift I did not deserve but try every day to earn. Why should any of us be defined by our worst moments? We are more than our failures, more than our betrayals, more than the damage we have done. We are also our attempts to repair that damage, our efforts to become better, our willingness to keep trying even when the path seems impossible. I cheated my brother. I stole his work and his trust and nearly destroyed the most important relationship of my life. That is a fact I cannot change, a weight I will carry until the day I die. But I also sought help and did the hard work of understanding why I did what I did. I also showed up again and again when it would have been easier to give up. I also proved, through years of patient effort, that I was capable of change. Tommy and I will never have the relationship we had as children. That innocent, uncomplicated bond was shattered by my betrayal, and some pieces are too small to ever find again. But we have built something new, something that acknowledges the pain of the past while reaching toward a better future. We have built a relationship between two adult brothers who know each other's flaws and choose to love each other anyway. That is not a Hollywood ending. It is not the triumphant reconciliation that movies would have you believe is possible. But it is real. It is honest. And in its own quiet way, it is a miracle. If you are listening to this and you have betrayed someone you love, I want you to know that redemption is possible. Not easy. Never easy. It requires you to face the ugliest parts of yourself, to sit with the damage you have caused, to accept that some wounds may never fully heal. But it is possible. If I can find my way back from what I did, anyone can. And if you are listening to this and someone has betrayed you the way I betrayed Tommy, I want you to know that forgiveness is a choice, not an obligation. You do not owe anyone your forgiveness, no matter how sorry they are, no matter how much they have changed. But if you choose to forgive, if you find the strength to open that door even a crack, you might discover that the burden you put down is heavier than you realized. You might discover that letting go of anger makes room for something better. My brother taught me that. He taught me through his example, through his willingness to try when he had every right to walk away forever. He taught me that love is not about perfection. It is about showing up again and again even when it hurts. It is about believing that people can change, even when all the evidence suggests otherwise. I am 42 years old now. My hair is going grey, and there are lines on my face that were not there before. I live a quiet life, far from the corporate ambitions and competitive jealousies of my youth. I have not gambled on success or taken shortcuts in years. I have learned to find satisfaction in small things, in honest work, in relationships built on trust rather than transaction. And I have my brother back. Not the brother of my childhood, not the easy companion who shared my secrets and my dreams, but a brother nonetheless. A brother who knows the worst of me and has chosen, against all odds, to keep me in his life anyway. That is more than I deserve, and I am grateful for it every single day. My name is James Crawford. I cheated my brother and watched our bond break into pieces I thought could never be repaired. And then, through years of hard work and the grace of a brother who chose hope over bitterness, I watched that bond slowly, painfully, beautifully rebuild. This is my confession. This is my truth. And I share it with you in the hope that it might help someone else find their way back from the darkness. Because if there is one thing I have learned, it is this. The bonds between us are stronger than we think. They can survive betrayal. They can survive anger. They can even survive the worst things we do to each other. All it takes is one person willing to try. One crack in the wall. One conversation that starts with coffee and ends with the possibility of something new. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for giving me the space to be honest about who I was and who I am trying to become. And if you are struggling, if you are lost, if you have done something you think can never be forgiven, please know that you are not alone. There is always hope. There is always a path forward. You just have to be willing to take the first step. And sometimes, if you are very lucky, you will find a brother waiting for you on the other side.